Broadcasting live from the nesting grounds on the plain of Ikoria, this is Tap Tap Concede. Welcome everybody to Tap Tap Concede. Graham here with Ben.
Yo!
And Nelson.
Hi there.
And we are talking about Commander 2020, or Ikoria Commander, or it's the Commander set, but it's happening so soon, and it's also on Ikoria, or at least most of it is.
Yeah, this has been sort of a weird spoiler season, or like a preview season, I guess. Because like looking at every single card's like set symbol as they're revealed is so important. Because I've definitely goozled myself with a couple of these being like, oh, sweet, check out this Sky Shark. And then you find out that it's actually a Commander card.
Just getting ready to wreck everybody in Pioneer and then not.
Yeah, I mean, there will be a way to make Sky Sharks in regular Ikoria, but I mean,
not this Sky Shark.
Not this specific named Sky Shark.
Before we get into that, though, of course, Tap Tap Concede is brought to you by Card Kingdom. Check out cardkingdom.com/LRR. Normally, their shipping is astronomically fast. Currently, their shipping is non-existent, but they'll be back up to it as soon as they can, I'm sure. And this show is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. So we're going to get right into it so we can talk about this plenty. They've done this interesting thing with Commander this year where the yearly Commander set, which typically comes out later in the year, is coming out the 5 pre-constructed decks with big fancy new commanders. Each deck has 2 options. Well, they have more than that, but each deck has 2 options in the triome colors, because each deck has 3 colors, and they're all set on, or at least there's a lot of brand new cards in these decks, and the new cards are all also on the plane of Ikoria, much like the expansion forthcoming.
Yeah, so I mean, like they've done, it looks like what they have is like much like they've done in the past, like a commander and then like a backup commander that you can change it up to. But then also, I believe every single deck also has partners in it that if you want to, you can run those, and that'll still cover your base for like your 3 color pie.
Yeah, it's really interesting. They have, so like, for example, the Mardu deck has a Mardu commander, a secondary optional Mardu commander, and then 2 partners that are red, black, and then white. So that combined they make Mardu, but one is red, black, and one is white. And they're also legendary. So you could just run them individually if you wanted. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, looking right out the gate. So my favorite thing to do in Commander, like despite the fact that I'm like a mono red, like, you know, I like to go aggro whenever I'm playing like heads up Magic. When it comes to Commander, I actually just like to play like spell slingy kind of decks where I just like everyone else kind of does things and I just sit there and you know, play a spell when it's like necessary. So when they were like, hey, here's a Stegosaurus that copies your spells, I was like, go on. So the Arcade Maelstrom seems really cool. I think that's the Calamax, the Storm Sire, is a very, very neat card.
Let's talk about this one a little bit. It's 1 generic, a green, a blue, and a red. So 1 and a teamer for a 4/4 elemental dinosaur with a couple abilities. Whenever you cast your first instant spell each turn, if Calamax is tapped, copy that spell. You may choose new targets. And whenever you copy an instant spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Calamax. So I guess Calamax represents the idea of casting spells in combat, sort of like a Rada, Heir to Keld on a dinosaur.
Yeah. So like looking at like how the deck is built, that definitely sort of seems to be what it kind of wants you to do. What I want to do with this, shockingly, is play like 3 or 4 sleep effects in my deck, and just like give this big Stegosaurus narcolepsy, and then just cast double spells for the rest of the game for as long as he's there, because it just keeps him tapped the whole time.
I love it. Finally, a place for my Icy Manipulator in Commander. Right?
Yeah, and I mean, just so it also has the flavor-wise, in my opinion, the best of the partners. Not the best in terms of like doing things, But this is the deck that has Haldevan Avid Arcanist and Paco Arcane Retriever, the good Gruul Doggo. And they're like of the ones, they're not the most powerful, but they're just super cute. Haldevan is 2 and a blue for a 1/4 that is partner with Paco's Arcane Retriever, and you may play non-creature spells from exile with fetch counters on them if you exiled them, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. And you're like, what is a fetch counter? Well, the doggo, Paco, he goes and fetches, and basically it's 3 red and a green for a 3/3, has partner and haste. And whenever Paco attacks, you exile the top card of each player's library and put a fetch counter on each of them. And you put a 1/1 counter on Paco for each non-creature card exiled this way.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It's super cool. Like you send out your doggo to go, grab like spells off of your opponent's deck. And what's also cool is because they're exiled with those fetch counters on them, and it doesn't really matter if Paco or Haltvan leave. If you exile something really cool early game, late game you can cast Haldevan and still be able to cast those non-creature spells. But that's the biggest thing that kind of puts like a damper on them, is they need each other so desperately, which is very cute. But like in a game setting, all the rest, I believe, of the partners can kind of act independently of one another, and can do really, really cool things. But these ones, like Haldevan on his own, doesn't actually do anything without Paco.
Right. Haldan's just a 1/4.
That's it.
It's just a 1/4.
Yeah, that's it for 3 mana, right? So it's like, it's very cute. It's very cool. I like them both very much, but they're probably the weakest of this partner cycle.
Mm-hmm. Before we get too deep on this particular deck, the Arcane Maelstrom, the Teamer deck, let's quickly just take a overview of all 5 sort of through the lens of the commanders, like, because we've already looked at, that was Calamax the Stormsire. So let's take a look at the Mardu deck. So the commander is Jirina Kudro, 1 red, white, black for a 3/3 human soldier. When she enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game, and other humans you control get +2/+0.
That's super sweet. I really enjoy them making more of these mechanics that are like similar in a way to like Eminence, or like how Derivi. I mean, Derivi was kind of maybe a little bit too high on the power level.
Derivi, the Black Lotus of Eminence.
Yeah. But like,
you heard it here first. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Derivi doesn't have Eminence necessarily, but like,
I know, but it's like before they figured out a balance mechanic where they're like, we want to give you a deal on your commander. It's like, okay, first, let's make a totally unfair one.
I really enjoy mechanics that have to deal with like the commander doing something from the command zone. And this feels like a safe sort of way of doing it. At least if your commander is going to get zapped or whatever, because Jirina seems like a primo subject now, being like a lord. At least it's going to come in with some buddies, and the more that you get to cast her, the more buddies you get to come in with you.
Yeah,
I like that it's a lord. I like that it's all humans, and there's a lot of great humans you could throw in a deck. But I kind of dig that it's +2/+0 rather than just a +1/+1. It's a more interesting dynamic.
Yeah, like so this is the thing, right? Is like in a heads up commander game, like I would love to play this because humans just seem like they're going to be really cool, both in this as well as with Ikoria coming up. But like, this seems like the deck that you play that everyone just wants to hurt you, because everything is like so scary and wide. And like, this always reads in a game of commander politics to me is like, oh, you have a bunch of at minimum 3/1s on your side of the field. That's pretty spoopy. I'm going to go after you.
Mm-hmm. And I guess let's take a look at we didn't actually talk about the backup commander in the other one. So let's just keep sort of rolling through the decks. The Abzan deck, I don't remember the names of the Ikoria triomes yet.
Symbiotic Swarm now. Oh, right. I see the name of the triome. Me neither. Sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah, because they have different names. But anyway, the obs on deck. So is Cathriel Aspect Warper, Cathriel, Aspect Warper, 2 white, black, green for a 3/3 Nightmare Insect. And when Cathriel enters the battlefield, put a flying counter on any creature you control if it is a creature card in. Sorry, that's a separate thing. Wait, no, hang on. Put a
Yep,
flying counter
yeah.
on any creature you control if a creature in your graveyard
card, yeah.
has flying. Repeat this process for first strike, double strike, death touch, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, and vigilance. Then put a +1/+1 counter on Cathriel for each counter put on a creature this way. So just
Wow.
one more time
That was
to
so
clarify.
many words, Graham.
If an example, Cathriel enters the battlefield. If you have creatures in your graveyard with flying or vigilance, or a creature with flying and vigilance, then you get to put a flying counter on a creature you control and a vigilance counter on a creature you control, and it can be any creature. So it can be Cathriel, and then in that instance, you've put 2 counters on creatures you control. So Cathriel gets 2 +1/+1 counters.
This almost feels like the new hotness with like in terms of like mimeoplasm. Like mimeoplasm is one of those cards that it comes down and you're like, all right, I gotta double read this thing, and then it starts having all these different, because that's the new weirdness that I think a lot of people are kind of curious how it's going to work in paper, is all these like keyword counters and stuff coming out. So it's like keeping track of all the things that mimeoplasm can do was always like a problem that I had. And now I'm curious, like how many first strike counters are you going to need to carry with you to, your next Magic Fest that you're playing Commander at and stuff. So it's super interesting. I really, really like these. I like the idea of the flavor of, putting keywords onto different, monsters and creatures and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to point. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I just said I think it's going to be neat.
If you're curious, by the way, it's Indatha is the Abzan name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've got them loaded up, so when we get moved to each one, I can give them to you.
Sick. Nelson, what were you saying?
I just was going to say that Tyam, Luminous Enigma, the like backup on color, all 3 colors of Abzan Commander, also just has a ton of words on it. It's 4 mana for a 3/3 Nightmare Beast, and then each other creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional vigilance counter on it, as well as pay 3, remove 3 counters from among creatures you control, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard, then return a permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Which seems like a pretty cool. They're both pretty cool creatures. They're just exceedingly complicated.
Yeah, I like that it's removed 3 counters, right? So it's like, this thing is smaller, this thing is smaller, this thing can't fly anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's a thing that I think a number of people have been noticing since like Questing Beast and stuff came around, right? Is like, there's a lot of text going onto cards these days. And like keeping track of everything is really interesting.
Yeah. The counters thing is particularly interesting too. I think probably they wouldn't have, like WotC wouldn't have put it to print if they didn't have a good feeling about, players, everyone being able to adjust. We've seen all kinds of weird things like, upside down cards and counters for stuff we thought would be annoying. And the Magic community, for the most part, always just kind of moves on and deals with it, and it becomes a new normal. Keep in mind, everyone collects their own cards and brings a different 100 card deck to the table. So it's like just an extra little piece of bookkeeping, and I suppose you get used to it. But I'm hoping that's the case anyway. I hope it's not like this big drag. Oh, I lost my lifelink keyword counter.
I mean, I like that they had I don't know how on purpose this was, but they had basically a test with the playtest card in Mystery Boosters that mentioned flying counters, and there was no explanation on that card. It was like, return it to the battlefield with a flying counter on it or whatever it was. And generally speaking, a majority of people were like, oh, I completely understand what that means. I know what a flying counter does.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously it gives the thing flying, right? And Wizards was like, yes, that is what that means. You did it. So,
That's true.
like everyone I think can pick up pretty quickly. It's like, well, this is a +1/+1 counter. Right. It gives a +1/+1. Well, what's that? Oh, it's a trample counter. Oh, so that gives a trample, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah, I get it. So
Also, to like their credit, I was just reminded only just now, and these cards were started to be previewed last weekend. Even Mimeomancer from Alara Reborn did something kind of similar too. This is a 3/1 flying for 3, 1 white and a blue. And it's just a 3/1 flying with 1 triggered ability. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a feather counter on target creature. If you do, that creature has base power and toughness 3/1 and has flying for as long as it has a feather counter on it.
Oh.
Which is like kind of the same rules templating they've gone with. Pretty similar.
Yeah. I am glad though that they didn't try to get cute with it, that they weren't like a feather counter gives flying and a hoof counter gives trample and an eye counter gives vigilance. They were just like, it's a flying counter. It gives it flying. You get it.
Yeah. Agreed. That was wise on their part.
Yeah. The Jeskai deck, or as Jeskai is known on Ikoria,
Rogrin.
Yeah, that one's really gonna stick.
Raugrin. Rogrin.
Actually, I kind of find it annoying that there's new names for these color associations. Like, I don't want to have to learn more of these.
I don't think you're gonna.
Okay.
It's like, I think it's
All
the first ones to slam on down are going to be the ones, because there have been like other tribes and various colors and stuff like that, I think. But
nice. At time of recording, it's shift change, so I'd like to take this 10 seconds to thank you for being a frontline worker who listens to TTC. We appreciate your sacrifice during this pandemic.
Oh, is that I can hear the jangling in the background.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of a clanking neighborhood. Maybe it's gonna make its way over to you guys. You're both sort of downtown. I'm a little bit more.
Oh, I've been in the Clankin neighborhood for a week. Last time we recorded, we had both of us going.
Yeah, it does not happen downtown because
this time I got my windows closed.
Yeah.
So anyway, the Jeskai or Ralgren deck, the commander is Gavi, Nest Warden, 2 blue, red, white for a 2/5 human shaman. You may pay 0 rather than the cycling cost of the first card you cycle each turn. And whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/2 red and white dinosaur cat creature token. Now, typically speaking, when something has a cost in Magic and then a different card says that you don't have to pay that cost, that ends up being very powerful. The commander deck that was like, oh, the first time you morph every turn, that's on us, was unreal. And, this is maybe not as unreal, but it's like, oh, the cycling cost on all your cards is free one time every turn. It's like, yes, please. That sounds great.
This feels like, to me, the best of the decks, not even necessarily because of like the free cycle, although that is like huge, but it, like, I mean, as we said, we'll get into like the cards and whatnot in the decks, but like this one, just having like looked through the deck list, I can already see like really sick combos and whatnot in it that I'm like, oh, this one feels real good.
This one's got the shark bird in it. Should we talk about that briefly? So there's these 3 sort of sets of optional commanders, and the partner for the Jeskai deck is Shabraz the Sky Shark and Braylon Sky Shark Rider. And Shabraz is a 5 mana, 3 generic, and a blue-white for a 3/3 partner with Brawlin. Sharkbird, legendary creature Sharkbird, and with flying, and whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Shabraz, and you gain 1 life. And for an Azorius, you may give target human flying until end of turn. And then Shabraz is a 4 mana for 3 generic and a red, 3/3 partner, and whenever you discard a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Brawlin, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent. And for a red, target shark gains trample until end of turn. So together you can amass a bunch of neat little effects. I guess.
Well, so that's the thing, right? Is like look like if we're just looking at those in comparison to the doggo and the guy, either I can't even remember.
It's Paco and Haldan. Yeah, we were talking about earlier.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. I'm
No
gonna
problem.
name the
Yeah.
guy. Like,
The man and the dog.
I mean, who cares about the dude behind the dog?
Mhm.
Shabraz and Brawlin can each kind of do like something on their own,
Right.
which is why they just seem really cool. On the flip side, though, this one to me has kind of one of the weaker backup, backup commanders, which is Akeem the Soaring Wind, which is two in jeskai for a 3/4 flyer. And whenever you create one or more creature tokens, you get an extra burb, a 1/1 bird. And then for 3 in jeskai creature tokens you control gain double strike until end of turn. Like, it's cool, but like the fact that it's got that keyword of one or more, just kind of
it's also way less cool than even you said out loud, because it's whenever you create one or more tokens for the first time each turn.
Oh, yes, sorry, yeah. So you're only going to get one bird a turn at max.
Yeah. If you cast Finale of Glory, you also get one bird.
Mm-hmm. So it's one of the. It's literally like, I know they had to make something. They you needed to make a backup commander for each of these decks. All I want to do is buy this, take Akeem out, and put Kaikar in. I don't know if you remember Kaikar from M20, but he's the one with, like, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you make a 1/1 white spirit token with flying, and you can sacrifice a spirit to add 1 red mana. It's like,
oh yeah,
it would just be so much better. But it's like, again, I mean, they've probably play tested these incredibly, and if you just have some way to pop off with tokens, I'm sure this deck could get out of control.
Also, Kaikar is a bird wizard.
Yeah, which is key. Synergizes with, I mean, the bird theme that appears to be going on in here.
I think
also very excited to see dinosaur cat tokens.
Yeah. Well, with these backup commanders, like the commander that's of the same colors, but not the one on the box, I think often what they're trying to do is sneak in, like, a second commander deck that hasn't been made, but that people want. Because, taking a look at this deck, not a ton of the cards will synergize with Akeem, I don't think, as much as they do with Gavi. And so it's like, this is here. There's like a few cards that work well with this, but it works well with the main commander too, because it makes tokens. And this Akeem card is here for people who wanted to build Jeskai tokens, because maybe there isn't already like a good commander for that. And like, I think this ability, it's not great, like the whenever you create one or more tokens each turn ability, but you could definitely build around it. Like, you could put in Keldoran Outpost and Castle Ardenvale in a deck with spells that make creatures, and you could put in activated abilities on creatures that make more creature tokens, so that you can be spending your mana on your opponent's turn to try to maximize the burbs.
Yeah, I mean,
so
like this.
I don't hate
this.
it.
Yeah, like this can. This gives a red for people that are doing like kanji decks, where they're doing like bird tribal or something like that. So, I mean, it does allow you to sort of expand what you're looking at.
Yeah. Okay, should we talk
And
about the
yes, I
Sultai
was going
deck?
to say, the fifth deck, the Sultai deck, or as it's known on Ikoria.
It's Zagoth.
Oh, it's Zagoth. Yes, of course. Zagoth.
Zagoth.
So the deck is Enhanced Evolution, so obviously involves Mutate. The commander is Otrimi, the ever playful, who's adorable. 3 black, green, blue for a 6/6 Nightmare Beast with Trample. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, return target creature card with Mutate from your graveyard to your hand. And Otrimi has Mutate for 1 and a Sultai, so 4 mana Mutate. And 6/6 Trample. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you get something with Mutate back. Pretty cool.
I mean, he's cute in the way, like, this gives me the Tim Burton like creature vibe so big, just like in his little smile and all that kind of jazz.
He's got a very Cheshire Cat thing going on.
Yeah. I mean, so this is, I guess, the Mutate deck, right? Like, there's Mutate creatures and I think a couple of these, but I don't even know how to read this one. Like, I was talking about it when I was doing commentary with Serge on on Thursday, but it was like I don't even know how to evaluate mutate. I think it's gonna be cool, but also all I see is like the amount of like single target removal and whatnot in the world, and go, well, that four cards that you've got stacked on top of one another sure likes Doomblade or something, So I don't know. I'm really curious to see how Mutate's gonna go.
I'm kind of curious of the story behind Mutate. I haven't read a ton of development articles lately, but to me it feels a bit like it grew out of cycling. Like cycling is back again in this set, and you can cast all these creatures. Like they're mostly not a bad deal for their mana cost, like their regular mana cost for their power, toughness, and their ability. Some of them, it's like you have to mutate them with another creature, to get their mutate trick off. But like at the very worst, a 6 mana 6/6 trample. Sure, it's not like at the commander level, but it's still like a decent rate. Like there's plenty of time when you're like, okay, I'm going to make Colossal Dreadmaw now, and like that will do something on this board. And the mutate option gives you like these extra choices, more forks in the road, more decisions to take. And so, yeah, I think it'll be very skill testing with these cards. It's not always going to be terrible to expose yourself to a Path to Exile, as long as the trigger you get from mutate or the combat that you win because you made a huge creature to attack with or whatever, or a complicated creature to figure out how to block. I think
it's weird, right? Because I like the first thing I do when I look at this is I like try and compare it to Bestow, and it's like, at least with Bestow, if you lost the creature, this thing would like slide off, right? But it's like the whole stack ends up going into the bin when it dies.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I genuinely have no idea how to evaluate mutate. I'm a little bit surprised that it doesn't, like at least like the commander or anything, doesn't seem to like discount mutate or anything like that. And as I'm going through, like a lot of the mutate costs on the creatures are like maybe a mana less or a mana 2 or more than it's like at regular casting cost. So I'm wondering like how hard this deck is going to have to ramp. And I mean, it's in Sultai, right? So it's got access to ramp in it. But just I don't know. This one could be the one that pops off. I know I'm saying like the Jeskai deck is like the hotness, but maybe Mutate just turns out to be, the next Storm. Who knows?
This deck does have Villainous Wealth.
Ooh,
yeah.
That earns it a couple of points on the commander scale.
If you don't already have a Villainous Wealth, you get one with this deck. Yeah.
And to note, the backup commander, Zaxara the Exemplary, is 1 black, green, blue for a 2/3 Nightmare Hydra. It has Death Touch. Tap to add 2 mana of any one color, and whenever you cast a spell with X in its mana cost, create a 0/0 Hydra token and then put X +1/+1 counters on it.
Move over, Roshin Meanderer.
Yeah. Is it okay? So like I'm looking at Zaxara, right? And I'm looking at, Xeris, the Writhing Storm from the Arcane Maelstrom deck, and looking at Cathril, like the main commander from the Symbiotic Swarm. And the art on these cards feels like so metal or like sci-fi in the way, like Ikoria is like a really weird plane.
Yeah, me. Man.
Like this art is like, especially like Zaxara is probably the biggest contender, I think, of just like, what am I looking at? Like, what is going on? Where is its head? Where's its butt? Is that a leg? Is that a tail? I don't know.
Yeah, these are going to make some pretty good prints to like put into your lounge, have some friends over, relax.
Yeah.
Deeply, and then just stare at the art of the Writhing Storm. I don't know, maybe put on some Led Zepp, take your socks off in public, skip a shower, take some patchouli instead. How deep can we go with this?
I want to talk about some other cards from these decks. Have either of you had an opportunity to read Slippery Bog Bonder?
I hoped you were going to have to go that one. Yeah,
absolutely.
By the
So
way,
it's-
if you're not subscribed to Good Luck High Five Magic yet, go do it now.
Yeah, 3 and a green for a 3/3 with flash and hexproof. And when it ETBs, put a hexproof counter on target creature, then move any number of counters from among creatures you control onto that creature. So you're just like, this one, I'm all in.
Yeah. No, I love this card.
This card looks like a lot of fun.
I just like that they've literally got a slippery bogle on it.
Yep.
Just like
It's slippery
hanging out.
bogle.
Is it
but the
bogle?
deck-
Okay.
The creature is a slippery bogle, but the deck is boggles.
Okay.
Don't ask me why.
I believe you.
Take it up.
The mind how we can lose to these cards. Maybe that's
Take it up with Maria if you have an issue with it.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to talk about because this one is very interesting to me from a like multiplayer perspective. The agitator ant.
Yeah.
So 2 and a red for a 2/2 insect. It looks. Speaking of things that look metal, it looks amazing. It's illustrated by Igor Kiriluk, who does amazing stuff. At the beginning of your end step, each player may put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature they control. Goad each creature that had counters put on it this way. And it does remind you, because no one remembers what goad means. Until your next turn, those creatures attack each combat if able, and attack a player other than you if able.
Yeah, Goat is super cool. It's
Yeah.
it's very good in multiplayer.
This is kind of like a sweet Corona the False God sort of creature, but only 3 mana and just in red. Like, just encourages everybody else to attack each other and even, like, makes their creatures bigger.
Yeah, I mean, there's an equipment, right? Isn't it like assault suit or something like that? That like you pass it around, but it can't come back your way, which is really neat.
From the same idea.
So go with me on this journey because I guess we're in the Gavi deck right now. There's a card. There's Spellfire Phoenix. Which is 3 red for a flyer that says when Spellfire Phoenix enters the battlefield, you may return an instant or sorcery card with cycling from your graveyard to your hand. And at the beginning of each end step, if you have cycled at least 2 cards this turn, return it from your graveyard to your hand. So when I first read this card, I was like immensely underwhelmed by it. I was kind of like, surely, that's always like the thing with these Phoenix cards, right? Like, is it going to be one that goes back to your hand, or is it going to be one that goes straight back to the battlefield? And the ones that go back to your hand always feel like really crummy, I find. But then I discovered that Astral Slide is in this deck, which effectively means you can have Astral Slide and this thing out, and whenever you cycle one of those, like a card, you can flicker this Phoenix and just get that card back that you cycled, which seems pretty spicy.
Powerful.
Yeah. So my evaluation of it went way up.
Nice.
That is ridiculous.
Other red cards that I'm excited about. This is more for Canadian Highlander, although this might be really fun in Commander, but I'll steal a little bit of the focus here. The Fireflux Squad, 3 generic and a red for a 4/3 haste. So 4 mana, not unreasonable in your competitive 60-card formats even. Like, I don't expect we'll see this card in Legacy, but stranger things have happened. When Fireflux Squad attacks, you may exile another target attacking creature you control. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped and attacking, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So, kind of like the most aggro polymorph effect I think I've seen. Like, normally the polymorph effects are sorceries. This one's just like strapped to kind of a Bloodbraid elf, just like a decent body that's a haste creature. So
there's some really cool like targets for this too.
Yeah.
In the deck, like there's a Titan of Eternal Fire in that humans deck, which is very spicy.
Decent.
Just to clarify, because I don't know, I don't remember what it was that you said, but it's Astral Drift.
Astral Slide is the original.
Did I say Astral Slide?
They're kind of the same thing. They're kind of the same thing, right?
I don't know if you did or if I heard that, but I was like, I should mention this. All right.
So Astral Drift is a little bit powered down. I just looked at it and I was like, oh, Astral Slide's here. But no, Astral Drift is you can only, I guess, do it once.
Oh,
on
great!
that turn.
All my
Yeah.
powerful cards are here, and Astral Drift. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoops. I ruined that joke. Oh well, whatever.
Well, if you want,
you still get to do that. You still can do that combo, which is sweet.
Yeah. I like Tidal Barracuda.
Yeah.
So check this out: 3 and a blue for a 3/4 fish. Any player may cast spells as though they had flash. So you don't have to worry about that one person has Vidalcan Orrery. It's like, oh, hey, we all get to cast spells with flash. Isn't that great, everybody? Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn.
oh, nice.
That's really cool.
The agitated cycle. Yeah, that's great.
So it's like, all right, everyone gets to do this, but not to me.
Nelson,
Yes.
you're good at magic knowledge.
Yeah, okay. Knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need you to explain to me Eon Frolicker.
Okay. Well, it's a pretty otter.
Yeah, it's 2 blue for a 5/5 flyer, so that's pretty great on rate. But when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, target opponent takes an extra turn after this one. Until your next turn, you and planeswalkers you control gain protection from that player. Is a Teferi's protection effect worth giving, like time walking your opponent or giving time walk to your opponent?
Well, it's relevant that it's the only permanents that get protection are planeswalkers. If like your lands and creatures and all your other permanents phased out during your opponent's free turn, that would be a little different. They can use their turn to kill your creatures or blow up your land, or your other non-planeswalker permanents. But otherwise, yeah, maybe. I mean, you're not going to take damage on that turn. You're not going to lose planeswalkers on that turn, and you get a 5/5 flying for 4. So like it depends on the metagame, obviously, and it depends on what else is happening in the game. It gets worse as time goes on, but like if you land War Elf in this thing on turn 3 and then they use their extra turn to like draw and play another creature that's not as big as a 5/5 flying, that could be fine. Also in Commander, it's just one player taking extra turns, so you can just make deals. Like if you're in a 4-player game, this means entirely a different thing than if you're in a 2-player game.
Yeah.
What would be interesting is that because they take an extra turn after this one. So if the turn order is like me, Ben, Nelson, let's say James, and we're going around, then I'll be like, okay, I'm going to play this. James gets an extra turn now. Then Ben, then Nelson, then James again, and then me.
Yeah.
The other,
you can make it weird.
Yeah. The other really interesting thing about the Frolicker is that it gives this whole trigger is just one ability, right? It gives the extra turn and the protection ability the turn it comes in. And I misread it the first time. I thought it was all your permanents. So I was like, this is really exciting because your creatures can attack and they can't block the turn you cast.
Yeah, this could be like your trump card, right?
Right. But
Like
actually, it's only your Gideons and Sarkans that can attack. But that's still kind of maybe a cool deck idea or a situation if you find yourself in. You might want to put Eon Frolicker in decks with Gideons or in decks with Sarkans. If you can make your planeswalkers attack, they have protection from whoever you just gave a free turn to. So there's like a backup mode where, if you have 10 power worth of Gideons or whatever on the table, then maybe you can just win the game with the Eon Frolicker trigger.
Yeah. A lot of the cards that I just don't really know, like I was saying, like the Calamax deck is the one that, like, I like Calamax and I want to do a build around with Calamax, but the deck itself is like I don't know, it's just like it just doesn't seem as powerful as some of the other ones that I'm seeing. Like even like what I'm affectionately calling the Traitor of Green, which is Glade Muse, and it's a 2 and a green for a 2/4. And whenever a player casts a spell, if it's not their turn, that player draws a card. And it's like, wow, you know what green loves is like casting sweet instants on your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at the deck list though, like it's less of a green deck. Not that there's not green cards in it. And actually, I'm just looking at it. A lot of the green cards are in fact. Wait,
Glade Muse is a weird card. Like, it is a
Yeah.
little weird that this card is a green card. The stats are okay, but I don't see why they couldn't have just made this a blue card.
So there's a lot of red blue stuff, and there's 20 instants in that deck.
Yeah, like there's a ton. Like you're still getting like effects off of it. It's just such a weird card to me that it's a green card. You know, like it just it feels odd.
Ooh,
like
this
usually
deck has
green's
a wilderness reclamation.
Nice.
That's
This
pretty
Glade Muse
sweet.
just would have been too busted in blue, and so they're like, we want to print this card, we want it in this deck, but we have to put it in the color that would take the least use out of it. Like maybe that was the design implication. Like we have to kind of wreck the color pie slightly so that we can print this effect that we want without, grossly disbalancing a bunch of other commander decks that already exist, right? Because if Glade Muse was a blue card, you can put it in like a Baral mono blue, control deck, and now all of a sudden everything is a dismiss.
Yeah, I guess I should say I don't think that it's a bad card. I think it's just weird that it
That it's in green.
yeah, it's it's just like I feel like green. One of green's biggest things is like getting countered and stuff, and usually wants to hinder that. And instead, this dingus over here is just like, hey, and now from now on, whenever you counter any of the creatures that I try to cast, you're going to get to draw a card and replace it afterwards.
That's what you want, right?
Yeah.
I have I bet it'll be fun in Commander. Like I have in my Tree Folk deck, there's a Tree Folk Heartwood Storyteller.
Right.
And it's anytime a player casts a non-creature spell, they get to draw a card. And it's one of those cards.
When Heartwood Story.
Oh, sorry. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, that player's opponents draw a card.
Right.
And so everyone at the table is like, that one can live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about these free spells for a minute?
Free spells?
Gabby?
Well, there's a site. I'm not sure exactly how they're spread out across the decks.
Yeah.
So if you control a commander, you may cast a spell without paying its mana cost. There's a cycle. There's 5 of them, and I don't know if like these cards have gotten some heat. Basically, the blue one is negate, and the downside is that it only costs 1 more on top of regular negate. Like it's a blue and 2 generic instead of a blue and 1 generic.
Yeah, it's called Fierce Guardianship.
That's right. And if you have a commander, you get it for free. And this just, I don't know, this to me seems like a feel bad. At least that's how it's presented in the tweets I read, and I'm kind of on board. Certainly of the cycle of these 5, the blue one seems the most offensive. The black is exile target creature, the green is fog, the white is your stuff gets indestructible until end of turn, and the red is you can fork a spell, which is possibly problematic, but at least funnier.
Can you imagine though, like sitting in the room though and being told like, all right, the green player gets like a free negate the blue player gets a force of a negate, and the green player you get a fog.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like you're like, okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, the red one's not a fork, it's a swerve. Sorry, it's just a swerve.
Yeah, it's a swerve. So let me just actually so the red one, deflecting SWAT, 2 in a red instant, you may choose new targets for target spell or ability. The green one, it's a little better than fog. It's obscuring haze. See, it's not exactly the same as a fog. It's only an obscuring haze. 2 in a green. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures your opponents control.
Oh, okay. It's safe passage. That is so better. Sorry, I missed that.
So you still get to eat. You get to eat their stuff. Hopefully, is the idea.
You can use it offensively to just keep your creatures alive. You can, if you're not in a position to lose to a swing back, you can punch in with cards like this at the ready. And keep your
actually, I like the white one in Commander a lot. It's flawless maneuver, 2 in a white instant. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn.
Yeah.
So if you're out there with your commander and someone's like, "Oh, okay, fine, Wrath of God," and you're like, "Cool."
Nope.
Yeah.
So in the realm of big board wipes and whatnot, there was a little bit of a combo, I guess, that was going around about Gavi that seems like really gross, which is you can't do it out of the box, but Gavi says that you may pay 0 rather than pay the cycling cost for the first card you cycle each turn. And there was a cycle of cards that had these absurdly high cycling costs. That
From Shards of Lara or where?
Yeah. Well, so I'm talking specifically about Decree of Annihilation.
Oh, nice.
Which allows you, which when you cycle it, destroys all lands. And you can do that, and the cost for that, I think, is like 6 in red.
It's like 7 mana. I think it's like red, and 5 or something to cycle Decree of Annihilation. I've played it in Canadian Highlander.
So a lot of people have been like, all right, so you've got Gavi, you overload Cyclonic Rift and bounce everybody else's stuff, and then on your turn you Decree of Annihilation for free. And now all their boards are wiped and they have no lands, and you just win from there.
Tell me more.
Yeah. So,
and it's definitely Gavi and the Decree that are the problem in this equation, right? Not that blue spell from Return to Ravnica.
There's nothing. I will die on the hill. There's nothing wrong with Cyclonic Rift.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, you can ban Soul Ring before you ban Cyclonic Rift. Game's got to end.
And I will.
There won't be anyone on the hill to fight against you, because you will have bounced them to their hand.
That's right.
But they'll come back eventually, unless I Decree of Annihilation.
Yeah, no, that's a wise hill to choose to pick your battle, because it's so windy that nobody else could really get up it, right? I'd like to talk about this Elemental Whale, unless...
I was literally about to talk about that one.
Great. Yeah, I think this card's real good. It's called Ethereal Forager, 4 generic, and 2 blue. Oh, the different whale you like? Okay,
we're talking about... There's 2 whales.
Well, okay, I really like the Delve Whale. So it's a 3/3 flying with Delve. Okay, so you can cast this for only 2 if you have 4 cards in your graveyard. And once again, 6 mana total, so the same casting cost kind of as Tassiger, but 2 solid blue pips.
We are talking about the same whale.
Oh, okay.
On here, I have it listed as Heavenly Whale.
Oh, you're looking at a different translation. I guess it was spoiled in another language. On my spoiler, it's called Ethereal Forager. So one of these...
Which I believe is the correct.
Okay.
I'm going to call it Heavenly Whale.
Mystery Delve Whale. Yeah, so it's a 3/3 flying, and whenever it attacks, you may return an instant or sorcery card exiled with Ethereal Forager to its owner's hand. So, yeah, I mean, Sultai Scavenger is a card I've played a little bit in like aggressive black decks, where that's a 6 mana 3/3 flying. You can get down to 1 black, but you don't always. Like you do sometimes pay 2 mana for Gurmag Angler and 3 mana for... that unfair blue card that lets you look at the top 7. My mind's drawing a blank here.
Dig Through Time. Yeah.
These delve costs, it's like you don't always get the best situation anyway. So Dig Through Time is a perfect example, because having to pay 2 blue is worse than 1 blue, and it has the same converted mana cost as Treasure Cruise. But sometimes you pay 2 mana for Treasure Cruise, and the effect on Dig Through Time is a bit more powerful. So I think the 2 blue requirement is fine. And yeah, getting to get these cards back off of delve while you're attacking, super exciting. Tons of value. Yeah.
But how are you going to get cards in your graveyard to delve? Oh, it's in the Gavi deck. Okay.
Yeah, right. Like you're just dumping things in there so quick.
I'm just going to cast a bunch of ops, though. That's the real truth. Yeah.
We were talking about Goad, and there's a really cool new cycle of cards that are in these, which are the Impetus. It's the Impetus cycle, I guess,
or Impetus. Yeah,
Impetus, is that the pronouncement? Okay, so there's like a different one in each deck, and for example, the blue one is Psychic Impetus, which is 2 and a blue enchant creature. It's an aura, and an enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded. And whenever enchanted creature attacks, you scry 2. So it's like all of these different sort of effects that are causing the creature to be goaded. Like there's the red one, which is Shiny Impetus, which is it's the same. It's enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded. And whenever enchanted creature attacks, you create a treasure token. I really like this whole goading cycle. I think they're really, really cool, especially in the way that it's like, you help your opponent to get some, cool creature, but it has to go other places, and you get to reap the benefits of it going other places.
Let me actually quickly run through this cycle, because this is a very one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah.
So you've talked about the blue one and the red one. The black one, Parasitic Impetus, 2 and a black, so 3 mana as well, +2/+2 and is goaded. And Whenever that creature attacks, its controller loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. The white one, Martial Impetus, 2 and a white. It gets +1/+1 and is goaded. And whenever that creature attacks, each other creature that's attacking one of your opponents gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
The green one, Predatory Impetus, 4 and a green. The creature gets +3/+3 and is goaded and must be blocked.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's got lure.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It's interesting that it doesn't have must be blocked. Like it only one creature needs to go in front of it, right? Like not the whole pile, which
so
I would have liked a little bit more. But
so the other 4 all have like whenever this creature attacks, you get something nice. And so this is whenever this creature attacks, your opponent loses a creature.
Different opponent, right? Assuming you have 2 ones. This one, the green one, certainly goes the most awry when you end up still with this aura on one of your opponent's creatures. But now it's a heads-up game. Like if they do manage to kill the other 2 players, and then it's just predatory impulse or predatory.
It's like, hey, remember me?
Yeah, I'm still here. I actually kind of like the white one in a regular format too. Sorry to bring it back to that, but or like even just the white one in a tokens deck, but you just put it on your own guy, like, or your own creature, because it's whenever enchanted creature attacks each other creature that's attacking one of your opponents. So that's your creatures on your turn.
Yeah, like you can still use these on your own dudes, right?
But I mean, this one's the most exciting, I think, because it's a glorious anthem. Like it's 3 mana to kind of pump every creature that's attacking. So it's like not a bad rate. Yeah. Whereas the Crixus ones, I think if you're putting them on your own creature, you're missing out a little bit. You really want for the mana cost to damage output of those ones. You probably want to get them onto your opponent's creatures.
In the realm of like must be attacking and all that kind of jazz, Daring Fiendbonder was a card that like really intrigued me. It's 3 and a black for a 5/1 with haste.
I'm glad we're talking about this card. Yeah,
and it has to attack each combat if able, and then 1 and a black, you can exile it from your graveyard and you put an indestructible counter on target creature, and you can only do that at sorcery speed. This thing seems sweet. I love, I mean, obviously I said like I'm an aggro player, right? But even just like this is such a fun thing to just discard even on its own, like even if you don't like attack in with it and then just give one of your creatures indestructible. Like it's super cool.
This whole set honestly seems super cool. I'm excited about this. And also it's what a great opportunity to learn more about the flavor of Ikoria. Like I think this is a really interesting idea and I kind of hope they keep doing it.
I didn't get to say when we talked about the way that they're rolling this out. I think it's fantastic that we're getting basically 2 sets worth of the lore of Ikoria. I kind of wish the set releases were just a little bit further apart so it was easier for my brain to process the preview season.
Maybe that's to counteract the fact that it's like, yeah, like after Ikoria, we're kind of like in sort of a quote unquote loreless zone with going into like a core set again. And then we're just like zipping on back to Zendikar. So, I mean, having these kind of come out together, like Ikoria seems like a really cool place that I don't imagine us coming back here. I mean, I don't know the lore of it. So, but it seems like kind of one of those like one-off, like kind of like how cons sort of felt like.
Although Narset
is here
and potentially now now has red in her casting cost, which she lost after because she had it in the cons timeline but not the dragons timeline. So it's possible that she's now learning learning her potential that we knew existed from the other timeline, but now that she doesn't have, and possibly will then go back to Tarkir and maybe new things will happen.
Yeah, maybe. I hope. I mean, I know I said like one off, but we got like 3 sets out of it. But like,
I know what you mean.
Cons rules. I really enjoy it.
We didn't get 9 sets out of it like we have on Round.
Yeah. The last card that I had on my list that like I felt like needed to be touched on was Netherborn Altar.
All right, and then after we do touch on it, that we'll wrap it up for the day.
Okay, because this card is, to me, going to be a commander staple. If you're in a black deck, I think, which it's 1 and a black for an artifact. You tap it to put a soul counter on Netherborn Altar. You put your commander from your hand into your hand from the command zone, and you lose 3 life for each soul counter that you have.
Oh, so it's a way to pay your commander tax with life.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, we've had it's not. What's the land that does this? Command
Is it
Beacon?
Opal Palace or Command Beacon? Yeah,
Command Beacon,
right?
yeah.
Where you can sacrifice the Command Beacon to get your commander from your command zone into your hand, right?
Yeah. So having this on like an artifact that you can tap and do, I think is really, really big. Like a lot of like black decks will have some sort of like life gain, so that's probably going to be negligible. But you can also do things like flicker this or put it into your graveyard and recur it or something like that to just dump all the soul counters off. There have also been a number of cards that seem to be coming out that are just like remove counters from things. So you could just take all these soul counters off and just, never really have to pay commander tax. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Netherborn Altar in the future.
Yeah. Well, who knows what this bold new world of Commander will bring us, but I'm excited to at least play around with it. That is going to do it for Tap Concede for this week. Thank you, Ben and Nelson, for joining me for talking about Ikoria Commander.
Yeah,
my pleasure.
And a reminder that Tap Concede is brought to you by Card Kingdom. Please do check out cardkingdom.com/LRR. We think they're great. And of course, this show and everything we do is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. So, until next time, I've been Graham.
I will still be Ben, I promise.
I've been Nelson.
And this has been Tap Concede. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.